Afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here, taking a look at your tropical update for September 26th of 2019, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. Not as much happening today, I suppose, as in recent weeks, thank goodness. But we're not out of the woods, still hurricane season, and there's still plenty of time in hurricane season. A couple of showers, thunderstorms into the Gulf of Mexico. Not really much to write home about. We zoom things back out. We've got Karen, which is still, I suppose, technically out here floating around, and Lorenzo, which is, my goodness, is this thing healthy out here? I mean, just look at this thing. That is an incredible system for where it is, especially, but very healthy out there in the open Atlantic. Back in behind that, there are more waves. We've got one just off to the kind of southeast of that. Another wave, and then another wave. I mentioned yesterday that things are going to start to slow down coming off of the African coast out here as the MJO transitions. But until then, things will remain reasonably active. So things are back up and moving today after a short burst of quiet yesterday. Tropical Storm Karen, I suppose. They are really holding on, grasping for straws here. 45-mile-an-hour wind gusting to 60. It's going to go post-tropical as we head through the next couple of days and eventually just go back into an open wave as it heads toward Florida. Really no impacts anticipated from this at this time. Lorenzo, a Category 4, moving off to the north. May make a run at a 5, but given how healthy it's looking. A wind at 130 miles an hour, gusting to 160, 949 on the pressure there. I mentioned a couple of days ago when this thing was only slated to be like a Cat 1, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if it makes a run at a 3 or a 4. And fortunately, here we are. Well, I guess it's fortunate that it's out to sea and it's not bothering anybody. But let's take a look at the modeling. How about that? There's Lorenzo floating around out here. We've got what's left of Karen. And then back in behind that, we've got the leading edge of a ridge of high pressure and some dry air out here. This is really going to settle in as we head through the next couple of days across the Gulf of Mexico. Plenty of dry air that should keep anything that wants to develop into the Gulf kind of at bay. 700 millibar moisture, again 850 vorticity. There's your vorticity there. And you can tell the difference between a Category 4 and a weak sauce tropical storm. It's a pretty drastic difference in here. Now as we head through the next couple of days, I will say that as an open wave, this does kind of scoochy back our direction and toward Florida, but it does kind of fall apart. What replaces that, the dry air pushes back off to the west. It kind of opens the door in the Gulf of Mexico and the Central American gyre down here. A lot of the models are saying it's going to kind of flick something off to the north. We'll have to see if anything develops off of that, but a little piece of vorticity is going to get kind of flung off and to the north and into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll just have to see where it goes, how organized it is, and what it even looks like. At this point, there's really no cause for concern, but it is something worth watching. Central American gyre tropical systems in recent memory. Michael, yeah, not good. But before that, Nate and subtropical storm, which was eventual tropical storm, Alberto, I believe, were our big three over the last about 2 to 3 to 4 years. So the Central American gyre generally makes kind of lopsided, weak tropical storms and hurricanes. The big difference was this last year with Michael. That was the first time, I want to say, in recorded history that a major hurricane had been flung off of the Central American gyre. So it's not the norm, it is the exception to the rule. Heading over and looking at the European model. So that was the American model. European model says kind of the same thing. Dry air into the Gulf of Mexico, out into the Atlantic. Karen falling apart. We got Lorenzo back over here. And that thing is just healthy. The difference is with the European model is it actually takes a little chunk of Karen down to the south into the strait between the Yucatan and Cuba, and then lifts that back to the north and into the Gulf of Mexico, again kind of loosely associated with the Central American gyre, and then kind of takes it off to the west-northwest and toward, unfortunately, Texas and Louisiana. People just don't need any more rain as we head into the upcoming weekend, the 5th and 6th of October, not this weekend, sorry. The up and coming weekend, not this one, but the next one, October 5th and 6th. Didn't mean to confuse anybody there. So outside of that, we got another wave coming off the coast of Africa that may be worth watching, but we're starting to get into the time of year in the beginning of October, middle of October, that it gets more and more difficult to see tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa that mean anything to anybody other than the fish, which is good news and also kind of bad news. Anyway, so there's a look at your tropical update brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters for September 26th of 2019. As of right now, things are slowing down a little bit for us, but we do have some stuff on the horizon worth monitoring.